Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hearthstone Major presented by One Nation of Gamers. Players are live from PAX East. My name is TJ, and I am joined by That's Admirable. We have a doozy of a matchup coming up next. It's going to be Amnesiac taking on Zalae, both members of Team Archon. This is only going to be the second matchup that we've seen so far. That's between two known players. Yesterday, we did see Raynad versus the Rat. So now we're going to move into this matchup. What do you think of this one, Admirable?
I think this is the highest profile matchup of the weekend so far. North American champion, fresh off his win versus Zalae, but a very consistent player over his career. Was the leader in points for 2015. Off to a decent start this year, but still hunting for those big results on his resume. Has a couple of them there, but would like to pin a few more badges on his uniform and keep in the battle for this one. Always tough to fight the team battles, but it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, and this is the round of 32, so we're moving on to a little bit further into the tournament, to the round of 32. So getting to that round of 16 ends up being a big deal. It means you only have to win a couple more matches to find yourself in that top four, in that top eight. I believe the Hearthstone Championship Tour points are distributed among the top eight, or top eight, maybe the top 16. But they're getting close to getting to that point. So Amnesiac, of course, Rogue, Mage, and Warrior. He tends to stick with some of the same decks, the decks that he's comfortable with. He's definitely a rogue player. Plays a lot of freeze mage as well, so wouldn't be surprised to see that. Zalae is just a player that happens to just plays what's sort of the best, the meta decks. So maybe Aggro Shaman, Zoo Warlock.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the person that he is. He just will play the decks that he believes are the four best decks. And in my opinion, these are the four best decks right now. Druid, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. Amnesia, kind of interesting he's not bringing Druid. He's a very experienced Druid player. And in the really tight scenarios, the little things that make a big difference as matchups, he navigates those so well. Mm-hmm. Him and I have practiced Druid so much together, and we've spoken a lot about that deck and the matchups that it has. He may be not bringing it just because of the variation from such a big open bracket like this, and not wanting to fall into situations where people maybe have a lineup that's kind of strong against Druid. So that unpredictability may influence us a little bit. It's kind of the same thing we saw from Firebat. Firebat just wanted to bring some more well-rounded decks, it looked like, and be able to navigate and have his decision-making be the edge over a lot of these players. When you run into a player like Zalae, you might get punished for having a deck that's kind of meant to maybe take on the weaker players that you're going to see in the field. So in this one, I think I have to give a little bit of an advantage to Zalae in this one. I feel like his lineup is just simply stronger.
Just overall better, yeah. Zalae did participate in the One Nation of Gamers feature tournament number 2, which happened last week. And he was playing an interesting version of Hobgoblin Zoo, which he's been known to play in tournaments and on his stream in the past. That deck did end up being his weak link in the tournament. And it's a deck that basically substitutes some of the more inconsistent cards, some of the finishers, like Doom Guards and Leroy Jenkins, in order to fit in Hobgoblin plus some additional one-attack minions. So it was his weak link. We'll see if he'll be going with that deck again, or if he'll change it up maybe to a more traditional Zoo, or maybe even to a slower Warlock like a Reno Warlock. But we are going to jump into this first matchup. It is going to be Zalae throwing out the mid-range Druid, and Amnesiac is playing a Patron Warrior.
Yeah, Patron Warrior a little bit different than what we saw from the North American Championships from him. Not surprised to see it, though. It's just simply one of the strongest decks in the format right now. He's got Acolyte, Deathbite, Whirlwind, and Frothing Berserker on the open with the coins. Zalae, meanwhile, Wild Growth, Shade Next Rammus, and a couple of Druid of the Claws. Those guys can make a big impact versus Warrior. And I'm curious if Zalae actually knows what Warrior deck Amnesiac is bringing. You can see a little bit of lighthearted friendliness in these two. Know that Wild Growth does improve Druid's win rate by a substantial margin.
Yeah, I know these two play and practice together quite a bit. I think even before they were teammates as well, they collaborated a little bit on decks.
Yeah.
So cool to see a little bit of friendly in-game banter between them. Yeah, Zalae's hand's looking pretty scary. Amnesiac does have Deathbite. He does have some tools to fight back, but still no patrons, and that's sort of one of the keys to this matchup. One of the win conditions for the Patron Warrior is just to make patrons as early as possible. And Druids just have a tough time dealing with multiple patrons on the board at once. They have to have an ideal hand in order to do so.
Yeah, I'm just going to be Frothing Berserker to play here. And Zalae has a couple of wonderful options in front of him with those two Druid of the Claws.
Just charge it down.
Yeah, I think Charge actually might be a little bit better here just because of the guaranteed kill. Prowling Berserker is certainly a scary minion to leave on board.
Yeah, maybe it's not too worried about it yet. He's thinking, what do I get punished by if I taunt this up? And there's quite a few answers, but how much of a punish is it? If he uses some type of spell or a weapon plus an execute, then that Frostbite Berserker is going to be able to push damage. But the safe play is just to go ahead and charge it down, get rid of it while it's still not that threatening, and definitely like that play. Now it's time for Amnesiac to start developing this Death Spite. Still needs those patrons though.
Yeah, I think I do like going for it the way that he did. Just feels like it's a little bit stronger this way. Mm-hmm. Keep that Shade on board, and still again just decent options in front of him. I mean, Druid of the Claw taunt is looking a lot stronger than it was last turn, I think.
Where shall I strike?
Yep. Druid of the Claw doesn't
swing. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't get killed. The one thing he does get punished by here would be like an additional Whirlwind effect. So Zalae knows that the coin is still there. He does not want to see Patron plus Swing plus Whirlwind. That would be worst case scenario for him. But Amnesiac does have both executes, and he does have Battle Rage. But is that going to be worth it? He would have to spend his whole mana. He would leave the Druid of Claw up. So it looks like he's just going to Whirlwind.
Yep, go for the Whirlwind first here, just to get a little bit of extra information. Maybe there's a situation where you don't attack. 2 executes is still pretty reasonable here. You have the Death Spite for the next threat afterwards. You're setting up for Battle Rage almost. Say you just draw another strong minion that you can play on board, have it damaged, then run to your Battle Rage turns. Executes are looking appealing here. I'm actually curious which one is better. You also save yourself 4 points of health right now. Maybe your opponent has to keeper this and you get a little bit easier trade.
Yeah. Looks like he is going to go with
single execute instead. A little bit surprised by this.
He can take a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get the Acolyte to absorb a hit here, and then have more information afterwards.
I don't think that Acolyte's absorbing anything. Maybe a Rasp or 2 after this Azure Drake.
Look, I agree with you. I'm not attacking the Acolyte of Pain here with my Shade. I'm dealing 5 damage, but
that seems way too hopeful for Amnesiac. Maybe he's thinking that the coin is going to be incredibly useful moving forward into these next couple turns, but Zalae has a strong turn. He's going to be pushing even more damage. It seems like Amnesiac's going to have to attack into something, which is going to be more damage that's going on to him. So Zalae has already picked up the combo.
Yeah, 5 damage coming across too. This is looking really scary. I think I would have liked to. I think foregoing the execute last turn was a bit too greedy, and that's something that Amnesia is kind of known for, is being a little bit greedy with some of his plays. So I don't think it's too bad, but 5 damage is a lot when you're this low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but now he has to execute it this turn anyway. So he took 5 damage to draw the coin. Is that worth it?
I don't think so. We'll have to see, though. That is just game. Force of Nature Savage Roar plus Living Roots is 16 damage. So it looks like Amnesia is going to get punished, and Zalae with a great pickup off the top is going to take game number 1. Amnesiac can't help but smile. He's like, man, why didn't I bring Druid?
That's what I would be thinking too. I think Druid's great. It's the last hurrah for it. Get him, Druid.
Yeah. But that's not a great start going into a matchup that's you probably, especially at the highest level, consider yourself to be favored in. Of course, Druid can always do Druid things, but getting off to a good start in this matchup, Zalae with 2 of more consistent, strong decks left to go up against Amnesiac's lineup. Got to be feeling good.
Yeah, I'm curious if this game pans out any different if he chooses to coin the execute. I'm not sure that the outcome really changes that much. Zalae just had a strong hand behind, but Amnesia definitely would have had a little bit more time to work with there. But being down 2 executes, that's all Patron has in terms of the tempo removal. The weapons are used early to try to buy tempo, and the rest of it's trying to piece together big Grim Patron turns. If Druid just gets off to a good start, they're just going to have heavy pressure on you the rest of the time.
Yeah, so now we're going to move into Aggro Shaman versus Patron Warrior. Amnesiac's Patron Warrior deck lines up pretty well against both of the decks that are left for Zalae, assuming that he's running a Zoo Warlock, which, judging by his lineup, it seems likely that it is. So Fire Warlock is definitely a welcoming sight, as are Unstable Ghoul and Armorsmith.
Yeah, pretty good opening hand here from Amnesiac. Zalae's opening hand's looking pretty good too. I mean, Finley into Totem Golem, always a welcome start, but I think it's just going to get disrupted. And Shaman, when it gets disrupted too heavily, kind of can just fall apart at the seams. It does need to push a lot of damage, get some good value from its cards. Yeah, I'm not as surprised to see those two get pitched back. Ooh. Second Armorsmith.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's a lot of potential damage.
Ooh. So this is a pretty strong start for Zalae. He could Tunnel Trog into Coin Feral Spirits and still have a 1-drop. But the thing is, it's super vulnerable to Fire War Axe. Maybe he wants to test for Fire War Axe with the Sir Finley first. And then if he sees it, on turn 2, he can play Totem Golem, which would be just out of range.
Franker Z. Yeah, I mean, his turn 1 has a lot of different options from, using the coin and not using the coin. They mean very different things for this hand. I mean, how much of a difference is 2 1-power guys on the board versus a single 1-power guy? Because if he just goes with the Tunnel Trog, and then he finds himself into Totem Golem, Coin, Rockbiter, maybe on an Unstable Ghoul, it's looking pretty good. He's actually just going to go for Totem Golem first, which is really strong versus Fiery War Axe. But I'm a little bit confused by this play. I mean, to me, this tells me he wants to hold on to Tunnel Trog until he can play it with the Feral Spirit.
Yeah, he can. I mean, this is sort of there's two ideal scenarios with the Aggro Shaman. One is against decks where you know that your opponent is going to have an answer to Tunnel Trog. Is you coin out this and then you play the Tunnel Trog plus Feral Spirits in combination. But they're both vulnerable to Fire War Axe, and Zalae just his aggression just gets stopped in its tracks.
Yeah.
No damage with that opening hand, and that's the risk that you take queuing this deck into a Patron Warrior. It's just so strong.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit surprised that he chose to play the Tunnel Trog there. Like, I feel like if you're going to play the Tunnel Trog, that playing it first gives you more information from it prods for information from your opponent, and still deals a pretty reasonable amount of damage. Like, if you run into Fiery War Axe, and you can drop the Totem Golem and try to offset the Fiery War Axe later on, and roll into the Feral Spirit afterwards. This way, he runs into the Fiery War Axe and kind of ends up in the same spot. So Ping almost certainly going to be his play here. Maybe there's a justification for Dagger Up. Like, if he takes Dagger Up here, he can clear this off and maybe do something else next turn. But yeah, Ping is definitely a better option overall.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still a chance that he can outvalue here. Because he does have a lot of good minions. And Zalae, it looks like he's running Piloted Shredder in this version, which Piloted Shredder can fight back on the board quite a bit. There are a lot of dead cards. And now that he's seen both Armorsmiths, once those Armorsmiths have been killed, that's a lot of sort of pressure off of Zalae, knowing that he doesn't have to worry about additional armor gain from a Patron Warrior. He just has to worry about the armor up every turn. And Amnesiac's hand is not looking good right now. He needs additional tools, especially if the Unstable Ghoul dies this turn. If it doesn't, then he's in great shape.
Yeah, and that's where I think that this really changes here. I don't feel like Zalae's really ever going after this Unstable Ghoul very often. And so if he doesn't kill the Unstable Ghoul, the Grim Patron's a huge punish that. You have Piloted Shredder in here, you're on turn 4. Yeah, I mean, and here's the punish afterwards. This is going to be a really tough game for Zalae to win. Oh, Inner Rage gets picked up too. Oh my gosh! Amnesiac does a little Kobe. Woo! That is brutes.
Yeah. And Zalae's just like, not like this.
Oh my gosh.
Not like this. That is so much armor. That is so many patrons.
You trade in for sure. You trade in. I even think you crack the Armorsmith in the Pilot Shredder, try to get a poor drop on Zalae's side of the board and preserve as much of your patrons as you can. If your patrons live for the next turn or so, you are going to win.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he's going to do. 36 life. And Zalae's got to use a lot of these burn spells. He can clear the board here. He can ping off one, crackle the other, and then rock biter the other. So there's a full clear.
Good cleanup from him, but he's giving the turnover back over to Amnesia. Now Amnesia only has one card left, and it's not very strong right now. So this all in from him, if this gets stifled and he draws weak, Zalae does have a window to really try to punish that. Getting a 2/3 off this guy, I think, was super important. If this would have been a 1-power minion, this might have been a loss for Zalae.
Mm-hmm.
Did draw Abusive Sergeant, though, so he even would have been able to turn that around. Yeah, this is just tough. I think Zalae just has the answers to this, honestly.
Yeah. And still has a slight card advantage as well. He's got Tunnel Trog. He can hide the Tunnel Trog behind the Feral Spirits going into the next turn. So, like we said earlier, Patron Warrior cards by themselves aren't that good. But a Sludge Belcher, oh my goodness. Probably the best card in his deck on that turn. He's ripping things off the top like it's nobody's business.
Yeah. Zalae still has a good reload here, though. Tunnel Trog into Feral Spirit. Puts a lot of pressure on board. That Grom is still 2 turns away from being available. So Amnesia is just literally playing off the top of his deck at this moment.
Mm-hmm. And that's quite a bit of a stressful experience. Playing off the top of your deck in a tournament match. Even though this is the round of 32. Still a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I don't really see another play here from Zalae. I mean, he is a very patient player who's always going to take his time with these kinds of turns.
He wants to make sure that he has an answer to the Sludge Belcher. But, I mean, next turn he's got Rockbiter weapon in his hand, plus a ping. So, not that the ping would mean anything. If the Sludge Belcher goes into one of these Feral Spirits, he can just Rockbiter it down.
It's kind of a weak draw.
Yeah, just a Dread Corsair. I mean, a Dread Corsair is a taunt. It is going to soak up some damage here, which is a big thing. If Zalae doesn't pick up another spell to fight back on these minions, then he will have to trade the Tunnel Trog in.
Woo!
Ooh, Argent Horse Rider plus a ping does effectively remove that. So, he doesn't have enough mana.
Don't worry, loves. The cavalry's here.
Yeah, it does have Abusive Sergeant and Rockbiter to get through this, though. And then he has the 2/3 Wolf to run over the 1/2 body left and then push 3 damage with the Tunnel Trog. So I think this is a minor advantage to Zalae right now. I mean, Amnesia's getting a 10-7 next turn. So that's a big deal. But Zalae has started his assault finally.
Yeah. Started it, yeah. Amnesiac's still at 35 health, so not anywhere close to going down in this matchup.
Wow, that's a big draw right now. +2 power on that Tunnel Trog. It's unchecked unless Amnesia draws something. And this damage is going to start piling in.
Yeah. Acolyte of Pain, it's going to be guaranteed to draw unless Zalae... Fire Borax!
Goodness,
What a
Amnesia. Drawing some hot heat right now, and I think that may have been the turning point in this game. Zalae is once again at a disadvantage. Facing down Acolyte of Pain, probably one of the... See, this one isn't so good.
Yeah. And I don't think that Zalae runs Ancestral Knowledge. He has Sludge Belcher in the deck. Or sorry, not Sludge Belcher, Piloted Shredder in the deck.
Yep.
So it seems to be more minion focused, which usually means that you have to cut some of those excess cards, which a lot of times means Earthshock's Ancestral Knowledge are usually some of the first 2 to go. But Zalae, he's not going to bow out yet. He's going to try and hit face a couple more times. Armor Smith is down. Rage doesn't do too much here because he's going to get a draw from this anyway. But that...
Just in case your Enrage didn't do anything, here's an Acolyte of Pain. I think fate is deciding this one.
Yeah.
5th.
Amnesiac was chosen to win this game.
Oh my gosh, it's so ugly. Make it stop.
What would even be a good draw in that situation? Doesn't feel like
Ancestral
anything.
knowledge. Deathwing.
Ancestral knowledge, yeah, if he has that in his deck.
I'm just gonna put a Deathwing in my aggro shaman. Along with I'm gonna put a Ragnaros and Deathwing in my aggro shaman, just so when I get to these spots, I just have like 2 giant draws, and they're like, what? Oh my god! Are you kidding me? This is insane. Sure, Amnesia's played this game really well, but he is drawing so good.
Yeah.
One of them's got to draw good, I guess. I mean, the comparison one way or the other is that one of them's draw good. Shredder positioning.
Far left, I understand. Far right.
5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 damage only at the max. So it's going to be Lightning Bolt for the Doomsayer. Misses, and Zalae going to continue to sit here and take his beating.
Yeah, and this is just going to be, looks like lethal over 2 turns from Amnesiac, so.
Actually, with that one.
Zalae, unfortunately, not much of a chance. Actually, 0 chance. Maybe a miracle elemental destruction.
I still think Deathwing's got to be the draw.
Yeah.
And even then. Yeah, no help.
Doomhammer.
The game has been over for quite some time, but I mean, this is like the 36-point lead with 3 minutes left. It's just not going to happen.
You're going to attack the Frothin' Berserker twice? Amnesiac returning the favor. But he is going to tie up the series 1-1, finding a win with the Patron Warrior. Yep. And Zalae had a great start too. I mean, when both players have a good start, it's going to go to the player who has the favorable deck, which in this situation is going to be the Patron Warrior. So Tunnel Trog, Totem Golem, Feral Spirit's not going to be enough when you're going up against double Armor Smith plus Fire War Axe.
Yeah, brutal start for sure. So Shaman still in the lineup here for Zalae, going to have to take on Freeze Mage and Rogue with it. As well as that Warlock. You know, you brought it up earlier with the Hobgoblin Warlock. He's been one of the only players, I think, in the competitive scene that has continued to play that deck and truly believed in it as well. I mean, he's been queuing it on the last day, fighting for a top 100 spot. He's brought it to events before.
Yeah.
He believes it fights some stuff very well. I'm curious if he brought it to this event as well.
Yeah, it fights for the board really well. It has some big swing turns.
Oh.
That is not a Hobgoblin Zoo Warlock deck. That, to me, looks like a Malagos Warlock deck from the opening hand. I mean, we'll have to see. But
it looks exactly like a Hobgoblin Warlock to me. You're going to discount it with Emperor? Bam! Big turns.
Just missing the Hobgoblins and all the one-attack minions. That's all we're missing.
Yeah, I'm going to venture to say this is Malagos Warlock. Which would be a good mix-up from him. The Acidic Swamp Ooze, Imp King Boss, Shadowflame, Mortal Coil, alongside what we've seen so far. I mean, so could be Reno Warlock.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see as this unfolds. There's a couple key cards we're looking for here. So if you see Azure Drake, Twilight Guardian, those are going to be pretty dead giveaways. If you continue to see some strange one-ofs, like say a Mind Control tech hits hand, or like a Demon Wrath, that is going to signal Reno Warlock. So, Amnesia's hand is not good at the start. Oh my gosh.
Double sprint. That's punishment for the last game. Siphon Soul, still an indication. Well, actually, it could be an indication of both still, but I'm definitely leaning towards Malagos Warlock here. And Amnesiac has no plays for a while now.
Hellfire, still no indicator.
Brand Bronzebeard, still no indicator.
No, that's leaning towards Malagos for me now.
Yeah.
That's one of those key cards I think it gives away. Almost every Malagos version runs Brand Bronzebeard or Nancy Keelbot is their big healing swing rather than the Reno Jackson. So Amnesia's just going to take this turn to set up Dagger on 3 points. I wonder if this Zalae is gonna ooze this or not. I mean, this is a tough ooze to pass up.
Yeah. But it's turn 3. Imp King Boss, still does pretty well against a Deadly Poison. Deadly Poison doesn't really line up well against Gang Boss. So he might feel like he needs to play on curve. But yeah, hard news to pass up. Got to go for
It's
it.
way too good.
Yeah.
I honestly think I would have been a little bit stunned if he chose to pass that up.
You're basically just taking his Deadly Poison and 2 of his mana. 3 of his mana.
So this wouldn't be an unreasonable Hellfire.
It is
Yeah.
a Reno.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a Reno. Oh, kind of interesting. This wouldn't be like an unreasonable Hellfire, and I don't think it would be an unreasonable Defender of Argus and Mortal Coil. And it might even be reasonable to just leave the Violet Teacher up for a turn or so and look for a bigger swing turn with your AoE. But with a lot of decisions in front of him, and Violet Teacher being one of the scariest minions I think that Rogue can play, he's certainly going to consider his options for killing this.
Yeah. It's just not clean. Soulfire and a Reno Jackson Warlock. That seems interesting. I mean, I guess it's a decently strong card, but it feels like there's so many cards in the deck that you just don't want to discard. I mean, it still just might be some other form of Warlock that runs Twisting Nether, but Twisting Nether is only ever found in Combo Lock or Malagos Warlock. Or sorry, Combo Lock or Reno Lock. And Combo Lock hasn't been popular for a long time. So, just going to play on curve. Start hitting him in the face. And yeah, there's a Bomb Lobber, so... oh, did we see this deck? Did we even see this Reno deck? Zalae played yesterday.
Yeah, the Bomb Lobber is sort of bringing back some memories, actually. I don't remember if it was him we saw using Bomb Lobber or someone else. I want to say it was him. I mean, no, it was Orange was playing Bomb Lobber.
Oh, yeah,
Orange,
Orange
was playing Bomb Lobber. I mean, those guys are teammates. So it wouldn't be surprising to see both of them using identical lists in this event.
Yeah, but Orange wasn't playing a Soulfire.
Well, we don't know that. Did we see his entire build?
I think we did see his entire build. Yeah. But an interesting choice. We'll have to see if it's going to work out for him. But this is a pretty nice turn from Zalae here. Bomb Lobber, he knows that he's going to be able to coin Mortal Coil on whatever comes out. I think he was hoping for the... Maybe hoping for the Violet Teacher here to get rid of that value. But Sludge Belcher means that he can trade in to the Slime as well this turn. Get another Imp from the Imp Gang Boss. Still in a decent position. And Southsea Deckhand in Rogue is a card that we haven't seen as much of lately. It seems players are going away from that and going for more, I want to say more minion focus, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. It's just less burst focus, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a charge. Just using it for removal here. Not too big a deal. 4/4 Edwin Van Cleef. And is this Trade City or is it Dome City? Still looking for some trades. Wants to keep his board pressure, solidify as much as he can. With 2 sprints in hand, I think if he ends up buying time, that's the kind of situation where he can find a win here. Because his hand is just so lacking options. He just doesn't really have anything good to do. And Zalae's going to be life tapping quite often this game. And so he's going to be fresh on choices pretty much the entire time. So relying on this sprint to give him the options to buy even more time to find the burst.
And with this deck, Amnesiac can piece together lots of burst. But Zalae's got to be expecting it. So this turn, he can Hellfire to clear the board, or he can Dark Peddler, Search, and Defender of Argus to take out this Violet Teacher and get a little bit more value, a little bit more mileage.
Ironbeak Owl, also pretty reasonable here. Shadow Flame's a bit surprising, but it's one of these matchups where Shadow Flame just isn't very good.
Yeah,
like, it's not critical to your win condition at all. So being able to make the most out of those kinds of cards is important. And this sprint, a lot of options now for Amnesia. Picks up that key Blade Flurry. Second Violet Teacher in hand.
Now he's got Prep Sprint for the next one. That's going to make it a lot easier to fit in along with something else. Like next turn, he could go Violent Teacher, Prep Sprint, if not too much is played on the board. But he is going to pass it over. And Zalae has... Oh, it looks like we're just going to see the tops of their heads.
We'll get this camera issue fixed as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
In the meantime, yeah, Zalae's turn's just not looking too terribly strong. I mean, he's got some stuff he can play, but is this the kind of progress he wants to be making? Brand, Defender of Argus. This is probably the most value he's going to get out of Brand this match. And this does also protect him pretty darn well versus Blade Flurry. And Amnesia's got to get something done versus this board. And one charge on the dagger, it means he can't swing and Blade Flurry this turn without using basically all of his mana.
Yeah, he can re-dagger up. Deadly Poison. SI 7 in the face. Prep Oil. Blade Flurry. Full board clear. You have a 6/3.
Does he need to re-dagger up in that situation?
Yeah, he has enough mana to re-dagger up. 2 for the dagger.
Up, though. What does he actually get from that?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't need to re-dagger up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got so many different ways to do this. I'm curious which one he's going to find best. So it's going to be Violet Teacher, Backstab, Prep, Tinker Sharpsword, Oil, alongside this Deadly Poison. And this is just going to be a big Blade Flurry and hope to keep the board clean.
Yeah. This is infinitely better than the play that I suggested. I guess you sort of waste a Backstab here, but you're left with a much stronger board at the end of the day. The one thing is you don't fully clear the board. You could have used the Backstab in the other scenario to clear the board, but again, sort of a wasted Backstab. I mean, I don't know if Twisting Nether is ever getting much better.
Tough to say. I mean, typically in this matchup, your board clears are just not very strong. You know, you're facing down 1 or 2 minions at a time. Yeah, it looks like Twisting Nether's going to be the play. The other option was to take a risk with the Dark Peddler. Could have run the 1/1 into Violet Teacher Hellfire and search for Moral Coil Dark Peddler, but leaving the Violet Teacher run is going to be so risky. Azure Drake off the top gives Amnesia some good gas here. And that SI7 needed to face. And Zalae, ooh, Shadow Bolt gets drawn. Second Sprint actually going to come in handy here. Zalae's going to be continuing to fight to keep the board clean as long as he can. And his options are dwindling a bit at this point.
I think you got to start fitting in life taps here, though. You got to be getting close to that Reno. You got to be getting close to win the game yourself. You don't want to give the Rogue too much time. But do you have enough health to be able to do that? You can tap Shadow Bolt and Earth Ring Farseer here.
Yeah, I mean, Amnesia just used a lot of stuff. So he may feel comfortable leaving a minion on board for a turn or so and looking for a better turn. But Hellfire looks so appealing. So he's going to take the risk here with Hellfire into Dark Peddler. If he finds a Mortal Coil, his turn's looking great for him.
Or an Elven Archer.
There it is.
Oh, picks it up.
Now, do you tap the turn or not?
Is that a Molten Giant?
Oh, jeez. That is bad news for Amnesia. Picks up a second sap so he can delay the Molten Giants being a big impact here. Sprint going to reload the hand. 8 damage from those Eviscerates.
Do you dagger up this turn and prep sap?
I think you sap so you don't die. The dagger up doesn't feel like it has too much impact here.
You set up for a next turn lethal with Azure Drake, double Eviscerate, but then that's hoping your opponent doesn't have Hubot or Earth Ring Farseer or Reno Jackson. So it's a little bit bold. And preparation might have a little bit more use as this game goes on. But Amnesiac's going to be running out of damage really quickly here, it feels.
Molten Giant's really scary. Twilight Drake, Molten Giant, Earth Ring Farseer up to 15. Under pressure. Lotheb is no use right now, I don't think. I mean, he's just going to kill it.
So he can...
Can he win with the Azure Drake?
It can't pull any more direct damage, I don't think. Enough direct damage. He has 10 damage with the Eviscerates.
You know, if he'd have set up that dagger last turn, he actually might have had a chance to win this turn. But I'm trying to think of what draw he would have needed. Like Tinker Sharpsword Oil? So he did 14 Tinkers. Yeah, he still wouldn't have had the damage with Tinkers, even. Just doesn't have the mana to do everything. This is such a tough spot.
Yeah. He really doesn't want to use this burn damage on these minions, but he might have to in order to survive. He could sap this Molten Giant for one more turn.
Lothar prep sap is what it's looking like to me. I mean, that Molten Giant is just... when you're at 11, Molten Giant is terrifying.
Mm-hmm. But just 2 damage needed for Zalae, and Lothar doesn't block a Dark Bomb or a Soulfire. We didn't know that there's a Soulfire somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be trade and replay the Molten Giant. Like, Amnesia's been struggling to handle this. I mean, it's the second time in a row he sapped it and has not made any progress on your life total. So if you just run over the Azure Drake with Twilight Drake, run your 2 guys into the Lothab, replay Molten Giant, it looks like you're sitting in great shape to me. Like, maybe you squeeze in a life tap here, but I feel like the way he's going to lose this game isn't with card economy. I feel like it's just the damage coming from Amnesia. I mean, he's got Shadow Bolt, Implosion, and Siphon Soul in his hand. What minion's actually going to get through?
If he does tap, though, he could pick up Reno Jackson. He could pick up Healbot, which I'm sure is left in the deck. Or he can pick up Dark Bomb and just win the game.
Yeah, that certainly is a way to do it. Might have Power Overwhelming in the deck as well. Could have influenced the decision. Zalae going to take
well.
Yep, 2-1 lead here for Zalae at this point. And we're going to work on getting this camera issue fixed. Apologies for the tech issues here. But, man, 2 sprints and still not really enough gas. That Molten Giant, I think, was enough to actually swing the game in Zalae's favor. It was still looking pretty even, and post the second sprint, I think that Amnesia had a slightly better chance to win. But Zalae still had Dr. Boom he could have drawn, he still had Reno Jackson he could have drawn, still had Molten Giant he could have drawn, and all 3 of those make such a big impact.
Yeah. So now it's just Aggro Shaman left, and Aggro Shaman, I feel, does decently well against Freeze Mage, if that's the mage that it is. We're just assuming, based off of Amnesiac's previous playstyle and the decks that he usually brings to tournaments, and also does really well against Rogue. So it's going to be a tough battle for Amnesiac if he's going to want to climb and make it to that round of 16. But still possible.
Something I've noticed with the Aggro Shaman versus Freeze Mage is that Doomsayer is pretty much the key card in that matchup. If I get Doomsayer early and I can't check it, I usually end up falling out of the game. But if they're just leading with kind of smaller minions and just getting ice barriers and ice blocks, and I continue to hit over and over again, you get to like that turn 6 point where your opponent has to have AoE turn after turn after turn to keep up with you. And then even if they're AoEing, you still can have Doomhammer back behind with all your burn spells, because all your burn spells rarely ever have to be used on minions unless they're Doomsayer. And I think that's where that advantage is getting generated from.
Yeah. But still don't know exactly what kind of mage this deck this is, though. Just speculating. And it looks like we are going to jump into the match here in just a moment. And we'll see if Zalae can pull it through, or if Amnesiac's going to tie up this series and bring it to a game number 5. It is Freeze Mage, and judging by the Novice Engineer, it looks like it is going to be Torch Freeze. And Zalae with a decent opening hand here. Is there merit to keeping Doomsayer against Freeze Mage?
Doomhammer, you mean?
What did I say?
Doomsayer.
Yeah, Doomhammer. Is there merit to keeping Doomhammer against Freeze Mage?
Yeah, I think the merit to keeping Doomhammer is so much more about your opening curve, because I've kept Doomhammer, I think, in every matchup so far. It just depends on the way my hand's opening up. And so when he's got Haunted Creeper and Totem Golem, that's a very strong opener. And so that is going to incline me to keep Doomhammer a little bit more often, because I still have the early action, so I'm not really searching for that many early spells. Yeah, he's just going to pitch away the Rockbiter and go with that as well. I mean, if you have early game and you follow it with Doomhammer, that's one of the strongest turns that you're going to have. So I don't blame him for doing this at all.
Yeah, and we'll see if... Amnesiac does draw some good cards early on, though. Frostbolt is pretty good for fighting back on the board. Mad Scientist is great, especially with... Ice Block in the hand is not that good, but it means he's more likely to pull out Ice Barrier with the Mad Scientist, I suppose.
Yep. Like the Haunted Creeper here from Zalae will challenge all of the 2-1s, and with Knife Juggler in hand, it means that he has potential to run over this Mad Scientist and keep his Knife Juggler alive for the following turns.
Mm-hmm. Still a chance, though, that he misses these juggles.
25% chance he misses both.
Is he willing to take that risk?
Yes.
Totem Golem is still a strong play. But
Zalae is
Night
definitely willing to take that risk, I think.
I think he's going to crackle.
I think he's going to totem.
Wow. Okay. Does not trust. No faith.
I'm very surprised by that. Like, if he thinks that this is yielding him a better win rate, that'd be the only reason to do this.
All right. So next turn he's going into 2 mana, so he can play Knife Juggler then and trade it in. But how often is the Knife Juggler going to be better next turn than it is this turn?
Well, I mean, it plays cleaner on his Overload, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I guess that's honestly, like, I think the reason to play the Totem Golem here, now that I think about it, yeah, it's just curve considerations. If he plays on I don't know. I mean, turn 3, you're overloaded on turn 4. Who cares? I mean, he's just gonna go face.
Yeah, and look at that. Picks up a great turn 4 play with the Piloted Shredder that doesn't overload, which means he's gonna be able to play Piloted Shredder. All right, picks it off. He's gonna be able to play Piloted Shredder into Doomhammer. Sick curve from Zalae, and he's looking like he's in a great spot. Amnesiac does have Frostbolt. He does have double Blizzards if he can make it to turn 6. And Alex Strauss if he can make it to turn 9, but even then, it might be too little too late.
I'm just going to Frostbolt ping off one of these guys. Man, Pilot Shredder is actually really strong in this matchup. This is one I have not had the liberty to play with here. Rare position error from Zalae, playing a bit quickly. If he's playing this quickly, I think it means he feels very comfortable about his position.
I don't think we've seen a single Piloted Shredder land in the middle today.
Nobody cares.
They're all going far left. Yeah, it's like everybody's getting complacent. They're like, Standard's coming soon. Piloted Shredder's going to be done. I don't even care anymore.
Autopilot.
Yeah, that's a lot of burn from Zalae. And he's already got a lot of damage sitting on the board, so looks like he's just going to go ahead and get rid of this Mad Scientist right away.
Yeah, a little bit surprised he would choose to do that. Just wants to preserve his Pilot Shredder, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Willing to take the hit because of that. With Finley and this suite of burn behind, I mean, I think Zalae's got to have an advantage here. I mean, Amnesia is only at 27, and he's rolling into Blizzard. Yeah, the Frost Nova is certainly going to buy him some more time, but that's a lot of damage to take.
Yeah. I mean, you could stall the board for as long as you want, but a good point you mentioned earlier was when none of the aggro shaman's burn has to go into minions. If it's all going to face, that's so much potential damage that they have moving into these later turns.
Also have a good pickup here for Amnesia, allows him to get the Acolyte on board and keep his card economy high. We'll see if Zalae wants to offset this, perhaps. Yeah, I like the Finley. What does he get from this? Looking for that Druid. Our steady shot's going to work well enough, I think.
He's debating on life tap, but I think that's a steady shot always. Steady shot allows you to, extra inevitability, allows you to get through ice block when your board is frozen or your face is frozen. Just extra burn overall. So he hesitates for a second, but ends up going with the steady shot. And now he's going to debate whether or not he wants to take out this Acolyte of Pain. And I think that's a yes. Denying the draw is definitely going to be important as this game is gonna progress and keep pushing damage, starting to get that steady shot damage in as well.
Amnesia does have a couple back-to-back Blizzards here, which is really strong for him. I mean, back-to-back Blizzards might be enough to change this game. Emperor Thaurissan, I think it's just a little bit weak here. Like, if you Emperor Thaurissan here, you're just taking so much damage.
Yeah. He's still taking 6 damage a turn, though.
Ooh. This is gonna run right into a second Blizzard from Amnesia if Zalae wants to extend here. With Feral Spirit in hand, I'd venture to say that this is going to be his big push. He just saw 2 freezes in a row. So like Leopard Gnome, Feral Spirit, Hero Power. He may forego the Feral Spirit here.
He's gonna consider.
very, very close. Wow, he's just gonna lava burst. Oh my gosh, I don't know about that one.
Well, Lava Burst does allow him to set up for the next turn lethal if his board gets wiped. If he plays Feral Spirits, he's overloaded for 2 and won't have enough mana to fit in everything.
Yep.
So he wouldn't have enough mana to Crackle, Hero Power, and Lava Burst. So this is sort of more efficient damage.
Whoa.
Ooh. So
That's
Explosive
interesting.
Sheep allows him to use Torch to clear this board instead of using Blizzard.
Yeah, Zalae looks a little bit upset by that one, but I don't think it matters too much at the end. I do like the Torch instead of the Blizzard now. This allows him to get the Blood Mage on the board also. Down to 8, though. I mean, this block is getting popped. He does have Alex Strauss back behind this, though, and I think that's going to be the big one. Honestly, not having to use the Blizzard makes a big difference here because Zalae is holding on to Feral Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the reason why it makes such a big play. So, honestly, if Zalae loses this because of that, that would be pretty brutal.
So he's definitely going to get a block pop this turn. It's just how does he want to sequence it? I think you're going to Crackle first. And he does play the Tunnel Trog. So Crackle first and then see how best to go about popping this block. And it is going to be a 4. So that means it's going to be impossible for him to pop at 1. But we know that it's not going to matter just because the Alex Strauss is going to be behind it. Is Zalae going to have enough?
Yeah, that's really big. That's the million-dollar question here. Something I think he's thinking about is if he pops the block and Amnesia has to use Alex Straza, that the Feral Spirits coupled with this will continue that pressure. So I think you use the Doomhammer instead of using the Hero Power, so that way you can also get the Feral Spirits out. It's not going to do it, though.
Yeah.
So is he killing the Blood Mage, then? Nope.
Hmm.
Yeah, back up to 15.
Is this going to be enough, though?
8 damage available this turn. 9-10.
Would that have been lethal if he had played the Feral Spirits last turn? He would have had 4 damage on the board. It would have been 8.
Yeah, it would have been 16 damage.
It would have been 8.
It would have been 14 damage, actually, because the Doomhammer
14, yeah. So he wouldn't have quite had it, but it would have put him on a shorter clock.
Yeah,
and now
go ahead.
Yeah, now this is going to give Amnesiac just a little bit more opportunity to maybe come back in this one. But he's still going to be at 5, which means that Zalae effectively just needs to draw, even if his entire board is cleared, he just needs to draw into 3 damage off the top here, because he is going to be dead the following turn.
Yeah, it's do or die time.
Oh, man.
He's on. I mean, this is it. He has to draw burn here. The game's over.
3 damage?
Oh! Nope. That's so brutal. So
Wow.
many draws. So close, but just not enough.
And Zalae being punished for not playing that Feral Spirits, I think that would have been enough. He would have had enough damage over the course of those 2 turns if he had played those Feral Spirits and used the Doomhammer fully to pop the block. He would have had enough damage over the 2 turns, I believe, in order to end it. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. Not sure what was going through his head there. In order to hold on to those Feral Spirits. But we're going to a game number 5, so it's going to be Rogue versus Aggro Shaman in that last match.
Yeah, look for Zalae to try to get off to a blistering start here. And Amnesia going to try to disrupt the entire assault and then recover afterwards. Curious, we haven't seen an Antique Healbot in his build up to this point. We've just seen Sludge Belcher. So we're going to find out how he chooses to tackle this. Keeps Preparation in his hand, a card you're going to need in order to fight against the board, and what an opening hand from Amnesiac. My goodness, that is some hot heat.
That's probably going to be exactly what he needs to fight back in this series. Even though Zalae's got a decent start, and even though this matchup tends to be...
Oh!
Whoa!
That's like the miracle draw.
Yeah, you go for that next turn. Maybe not. No, I still think you go for it. You can isolate the Flame Tongue Totem and put a 6/6 on the board.
He can go Backstab, Prep, Eviscerate, Coin, 10-10 Edwin.
a 10-10. He's got to be confident that Zalae does not run Urshock in this deck, but I don't think Zalae runs it. And he has to know that this is going to be the case, and he is going for it.
Oh,
all right,
geez.
Zalae, you're on a 3-turn clock.
Buckle in, boys. What an opener from Amnesiac. Look at Zalae, he's like, oh no. He knows what's coming too. It's a 10-10 man cleave. Oh my gosh. Now, Feral Spirits will provide a road hump, but the Feral Spirits into Lava Burst does not kill the Van Cleef just yet.
He needs even more than that. He's going to have to play Feral Spirits, and then next turn Tunnel Trog, and then the following turn Lava Burst and trade in the Tunnel Trog to take out this 10-10. And that's given...
Point,
yeah.
by that point, Amnesia is going to have more development on the board. He's got a 3-drop and a 4-drop behind this.
Yeah, or he's just going to use spells to kill the Feral Spirits, and then how's Zalae ever going to kill the Van Cleef? I mean, is there anything other than Feral Spirits that he can do here? Can he Tunnel Trog and Totem? Like, is that even a possibility? Can you make it an orthodox play to try and stop this?
I don't think he could beat this opener. This is possibly the best opener that Amnesiac could have possibly had.
Yeah. So the Tunnel Trog can absorb 10 damage here. Or,
No, it can't. No, it cannot.
Next step off the top.
Oh, this is the best possible opener Amnesiac could have had.
Yeah.
Hands down.
He's even got a turn 4 play. It's not even like his next draw is dead. Like, a lot of times when you just go all in on a Van Cleef, you just, like, dagger up on turn 4 because you have, like, a sprint sitting in your hand or something dead. But he's got even more to follow up behind the 10-10 Van Cleef and the backstab SI agent to take out the Tunnel Trog. I don't know if he can even be mad.
I think you can be, but
You just have to sit back and just give him a round of applause for that performance.
he just drew it again.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Well, that's 16 damage sitting on the board. You could Lava Burst and take off 3.
Perfect.
Love it. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. Wrap this one up, boys. Amnesia is going to be moving on 3-2 versus Zalae. Yeah. trading into the totem to ensure that Zalae can't do any shenanigans here. No plays left. On turn 6, Amnesia's going to win with Rogue.
All right, well, after a well-fought series, it's a little bit anticlimactic ending for Zalae, but Amnesiac has to be feeling really good about that one. Moving on to the round of 16. And continuing that run, and Amnesiac continues to impress after his America's Championship win for the winter season. Keeps that streak alive. And Zalae, unfortunately, has been eliminated from the tournament. Round of 32, though, not too bad. Did have to win a few matches to get where he was, but I'm really looking forward to see how Amnesiac's going to finish in this one.
It's sort of a bittersweet match of this one. I think if Zalae had to choose an opponent to lose to, it definitely would have been a teammate of his. So to see a teammate move on for the greater good.
For the greater good, yeah. They have to avenge their teammate Amaz, who, if you guys are just tuning in, actually fell to sort of an unknown player earlier on in the day. We've had actually a couple upsets today. With Scrom earlier beating Strife Crow, and of course Ultima taking out Amaz. So it's been a fun day of Hearthstone. We got plenty more left today, and then of course we have plenty more left tomorrow. The next matchup is going to be between Kalento and Hot Asian Girl, and no, it is not a Hot Asian Girl. He is a guy. He did play in the winter prelims, so maybe a little bit more of a known player. Not a complete unknown, but it's going to be a tough matchup going up against Kalento. We're going to have to go to a quick break before we jump into that. Make sure, guys, you head over to the website during the break. If you want to sign up for the next One Nation of Gamers Open, which happens on April 30th, you can do so there. Also, enter in to win the CyberPower Gamer Extreme 1000 PC. Like I said, that website that's right on the screen, or you can scroll down and click one of the banners that's below the stream page. But don't go anywhere, guys. More Hearthstone Major presented by the One Nation of Gamers right after this.